Director of African American Advertising for Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. He joins us tonight. Great to see you, Joel. I appreciate your coming on. So it's hard to read this as anything else but an effort by the people in charge to bring more power to themselves, which is what people in charge do kind of instinctively. We get the guns, you don't. Shut up and obey. Why is that not what's happening right now?
Tucker, I don't really think that's the right way to look at this issue, and I really enjoyed listening to your conversation with your colleague a little bit earlier. I'm interested to hear that you guys think that it's funny that someone on TV in this environment thought that a soda can opening was a gunshot. You thought that was funny.
I think it's idiotic. Just to clarify, I want to say that I think it's
people hear
idiotic.
Gunshots all the time, and they don't think it's funny.
But that studio didn't have gunshots. It had a soda opening. Sure. And my point is that if you're going to advocate for positions, you have a moral obligation to learn something about the topic. And most people who are doing that haven't bothered to learn. And that's the problem. I'm not in any way denigrating the fear people feel in the face of gunfire. I'm making fun of people mistaking a Mountain Dew can for gunfire. But look, the point is, ordinary people are afraid. You're absolutely right. I think we agree on that. So why would the people in charge who are protected by armed security demand that no one else be allowed to protect himself, if you see what I mean?
Well, I have some frustration towards what I heard from the Twitter CEO today, but for a different reason. I don't like this this trend that we have of waiting for gun violence to come to your backyard before you get woke about it. I mean, just because it happened at a tech company yesterday, is you got this letter with all these tech CEOs who decided to sign on. Listen, I was touched recently by gun violence. I had a very close friend that was impacted by what happened at the Veterans Home in California. But guess what? I felt strongly about gun violence and about all of the concerns around that. Before that, it didn't take that issue to pique my interest. By the way, I think it's very interesting, Tucker. A lot of the people who watch this show and a lot of people who watch this network feel the same way I do. If you look at the polling,
I feel the same way you do.
High-capacity magazines, on bump stocks, etc. Yeah, I was just going to say. Yeah.
No, but hold on. Let's be honest. And one of the sort of pieces of political rhetoric that drives me the craziest is the idea that only a select few care about gun violence. I think most normal people are horrified by shootings. I know I am. So the question is not, do you feel deeply about it? Are you upset? Of course you're upset. The question is, what's the most effective response? What's the wise thing to do? That's where the debate is. It's not over who cares and who doesn't. Everybody cares. I mean, come on now.
So yeah, I would turn that question back to you and say, what should we do? Yeah, I mean, the NRA...
I think, well, I'll give you a perfect example. So with the Parkland shooting, we have a well-documented string of failures by people whose job it was to protect the kids in that school, and they didn't. There were 4 armed cops outside, 4, who heard the gunfire and didn't go in. I never heard their names mentioned at the March for Our Lives. I doubt you know their names. I never hear anybody mention that. We hired people to protect those kids. 17 were murdered because they didn't act, but it's the NRA's fault? That's insane. That's just pure politics. You're not taking it seriously if you reach that conclusion, I would say.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. There were a lot of people who failed those children that day. Some of them were the people who didn't run into those buildings, but a number of them were people who were in the State House in Tallahassee and who were in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Those people also failed.
No, but
we had the chance to act. You could have acted after Sandy Hook. You could have acted after Aurora. You had so many opportunities to act.
You're defending the people in power, as almost everyone on the left does. The people in power are blameless. They didn't do anything wrong. It's you out there who've committed no crime whatsoever. The guns in my closet, if I had them, would be no threat to anybody. But I have to disarm. But the cops whose job it was to protect the kids, they're cool. We can't blame them. It's some legislator.
I didn't say that. I actually agreed with you. I said they share some blame. I said that the blame didn't end with them, though. It also extended to the people who were in Tallahassee at their state house and in Capitol Hill and at state houses all across the country who failed to act. Yeah.
So what should they have done? I take you seriously. It's why I wanted to talk to you tonight. So just in the minute and a half we have left, just give me a discrete step, specific step that they could have taken to prevent the Parkland shooting, for example.
Well, let's look at a couple things. Why hasn't the president acted on bump stocks? I thought he was hot to trot on that. I thought that was something that the president thought he could act on.
The bump stock makes your rifle less accurate. See, this is like you don't know anything about guns.
Here's the problem, though, Tucker. Your answer here is, well, it wouldn't stop this specific act.
I'm asking an honest question, which is what's... No,
we have a
you
gun
just
violence culture.
Okay, so you're blaming the State House in Tallahassee for our culture?
Actually, I am, because we have a laissez-faire culture to gun violence.
Okay,
and we have a culture that has accepted that gun violence is something we can't do anything about when we know we can.
I feel it is something we can do something about, and when armed guards neglect their duty to protect children, I think we should hold them accountable. You instead shifted the blame from the people who actually had power to people whose other positions you don't like in the State House, Republicans. And I asked then, trying to be rational, what should they have done? And you said Trump should ban bump stocks, which had no role in the Parkland shooting.
I was going to say a little bit more. The president can act on this. By the way, the NRA, they could be partners here, right? The NRA is running scared. The reason why you see them turning John Paul Stevens and a bunch of 17-year-olds into boogeymen is because they know public sentiment is at an all-time low for what they fight for, which is the right for gun manufacturers to make money.
But you're arguing rhetoric and bumper stickers. I want actual solutions because, you know, like you, I care. I wanted to know what the new law is that would have prevented Parkland. There are a lot of shootings, a lot of different causes. I asked for one specific answer to that one, and I got bump stocks and John Paul Stevens.
I can give you more. I can give you more.
Well, how about
we can restrict access to people who are mentally ill to having guns.
But we already have done that.
We can stop terrorists from purchasing guns. We could have done that. Congress wouldn't do that. You got Toomey's legislation. You got Manchin's legislation.
We already have
you got Durbin's legislation. So many people have tried to act on this, but the intransigence in Washington, led by the NRA, won't allow it.
That's a lie. If you go buy a gun, it screens people who are mentally ill. The authorities, the actual authorities, failed to screen this kid despite the fact everyone knew he was mentally ill. They didn't do anything, and they're not being blamed.
The majority of Americans and the majority of Republicans actually disagree with you, and the polling reflects that.
Well, okay. I don't know what to say. Those are the facts. Joel, thank you. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.